Hey, it's Simon.
And this is Martina.
And we're broadcasting out of Kichijoji, Tokyo, Japan, the coziest part of Japan. I want to say, before I talk about the coziness, is there was a commenter, I forget her name, but I remember her avatar. She comments in all of our videos, and she said that in our last podcast, we actually harmonized our Kichijoji.
Lyrical dancer.
Oh, you remember?
Lyrical dancer, my lady. My Sailor Moon loving lady. Don't think I wrote back. I was like, So I've been trying my hardest to harmonize with him.
So I tried today to deharmonize.
I know, and then I went down. So guess what? It's on, Simon. It's on like King Kong. You're gonna try, but I'm gonna keep up with you like an auto tune, just following you around. That made sense, right?
Great one. Today we're going to be talking about some.
We're having a debate.
We're having a debate discussion. We wanted to talk a little bit about Barcelona because last week we talked about Amsterdam. There's some things in Barcelona that we didn't get a chance to share yet.
Yeah.
But we, like Martina and I, have been having a bit of a discussion that we don't know the answer to yet. But there's something that upsets us a little bit, and maybe some of you listeners and watchers can help us come to a better understanding of the topic here.
We really wanted to discuss the concept of tourist traps.
Right.
And the reason why is because a lot of people will say to us, oh, when you went to this country, make sure you don't do this. It's a tourist trap. Or make sure you don't have sangria in Barcelona because that's a tourist trap, or it's only made for tourists.
Right.
And we hear that a lot about Japan because obviously we live here.
Right.
So one of the big things I see that I think a lot of you guys might be able to relate with is Ichiran.
Yeah.
So Ichiran is a chain of ramen.
Right.
It's out of the Fukuoka
Hakata
style. So if you remember, we did that kurume ramen video on what is tonkatsu ramen. If you haven't seen it,
check it out. It's one of our favorite videos.
And it's one of my favorite ramens that I've ever put into my mouth.
Sure.
But having gone there and experienced it, I was able to then compare it to Ichiran, which is more of like the McDonald's or Starbucks of the ramen chains.
Sure.
I was able to say, oh, okay, you know what? Ichiran is not as not as deep, is not as great in comparison to this place, but it's still amazing ramen.
We still eat Ichiran, not every day, mind you, but like every once in a while, like, I could really go for some Ichiran ramen.
It's quick, it's convenient, it has a great spice level, we love the vinegar in it, like it's a good ramen.
Right.
But you need to first live in Japan for, a bunch of years to be able to have a comparison.
But it seems that like whenever like other travelers like go like, oh, here's a picture I took at like Ichiran ramen, delicious. Other people might say, typical tourist or this. But like, I don't understand that sentiment. So let's start with a bit of a story in Barcelona or some thoughts.
Well, let me just wrap up that Ichiran thought.
Okay.
The point is that we don't get why people look down on people for going to Ichiran and having a bucket list, because if you're coming to Tokyo for a week, of course you should try Ichiran.
Right.
It's delicious. Like, good for you. You should also probably try some places that aren't Ichiran so that you can have a little bit of a comparative scale for yourself. But don't let anyone put you down on something that you found delicious. And this brings us to Barcelona.
So our restaurant experience in Barcelona, like we found that, I think we might have mentioned this in the live stream before, but our favorite food experiences were when we went to restaurants that were run by older people. We found that like any kind of shop that had anybody in their 40s or above working there, they had some really good stuff.
Yeah, really home-cooked feeling food,
We went to like a couple restaurants that had mostly just young people working there.
Kind of trendy looking.
And it was trendy and like it was like fun and funky, but like they didn't really care that much about service. They didn't really care that much about the food. They kind of just like, Trying to get their attention was so hard because they're so busy text messaging on their phone. They kind of just like, here's your food, and they left. There was no like joy. There was no passion. And the food there was kind of like, not that memorable as much as the other older shops.
And what I'd like to mention is that we weren't trying to apply ageism in this situation. We didn't go up to a shop and say, young people, millennials, I don't want to eat there. Like, no, we went to some of these places being like, this looks amazing. This food looks great.
Right.
And then we found ourselves like a bit disappointed because we had already had really great comparisons of the same food at a place with an older person. And so we started to discuss this. We were like, why do we find that our favorite places, like if you guys haven't seen our Barcelona video, we just put it up last week. We found that the place with the chocolate croissants, we saw the same people working there every day. The old guy who makes the baked goods, the older woman behind the counter, the younger people that like we always kept seeing over and over again. All the bars that we went to with the squid tasted great. It just seemed that it was more like a family run feeling where they took pride in what they were making because it's something that is theirs. They own it. So we started to think, well, why is it that some of these youthful shops seem a little bit, not as delicious as the others? Well, maybe that's it.
And that's not to say that that's a universal rule, because we did go to one place that was run entirely by young people. And It was great.
Great.
Everything there was delicious. One of my favorite memories there is like, it was like, I think our first or second day in the neighborhood. And Martina was looking at the menu and she's like, she asked the waiter, what's the difference between the squid rings and the squid pieces? And I thought, well, one is cut into rings and one is not cut into rings. And even the guy looked at her like, what are you asking me? And I understand your question was like, oh, is it like a different style? Is it like Andalusian versus this or that? But like, just from the question itself, it seemed so basic.
But what was great about it was that
I had a very good chuckle.
He had a chuckle too. Like he was like our age or younger, you know. He had a chuckle, and then I was like, okay, you guys, all right. Like we all had a good kind of laugh at it. But we stayed there, and we ended up having a really dope. Like there's a little brief glimmer of it actually at the end of our.
Oh yeah, did you?
The hot dog and the squid ring.
Yeah,
just barely. You'll notice that there's one hot dog in the whole video, and that was that place.
But that wasn't even the best part of it.
Oh my God,
the cakes that they have. We figured, let's go for cake. And
remember when we said that we got fat from the croissants?
Yeah. It was also
the cakes.
So we asked him, what do you have for dessert? And he's like, come inside and I'll show you. And like he took us to this fridge that had these like 2 big glass doors.
You know what he said?
What?
Come with me. Dun, 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 dun. I got a Puff Daddy joke.
I'm not sure if you saw my whole body crumple up. Yeah. I did not enjoy it.
So we went inside. Simon stopped stalling.
And, you know, we looked at all these pies and like some of them, he's like, I don't even know how to describe this. Is just.
Well, we need to describe this
for
like
people
who are listening.
It
was 4 cases and every case had a different incredible looking dessert on. And he said, everything is homemade here. Yeah. We don't buy anything. Nothing is frozen. He goes, and whatever we have for the day, when it's gone, it's gone. Yeah. So he goes, this one is caramel con leche with decelerated coconut and some word I didn't know. And then he's like, this is a tartlet. He's like, this is a, and he went through this gigantic list and we were just like,
I had this amazing pie that was like, it wasn't necessarily a pie crust because pie crust crumbles.
Are you talking about the tall one or the thin
I'm
one?
Talking about the one
cake.
That I ordered twice.
Oh, it was a cake.
No, it was a pie.
It was a pie that big?
It was a pie. Like he gave me a corner of it like this. And it was like round on the outside.
All right. Describe your pie.
And like it was like, it almost tasted like a wavy wafer. So instead of like a thin wafer that was flat, it kind of like waved and rippled. And like there were like maybe like 6 layers of it. And in between each layer was, I think it's called leche. It was like this like sweet kind of milky
con leche,
kind of thing. And on top of that, they had like a really soft meringue. And what was amazing about this is I don't like eating millefeuilles. I'm not sure if that's even how you pronounce it, but it's like that really like delicate layered cake. And if you chop it, then like all the wafers like pop up like a catapult and like hit you in the face.
And you're like, oh, ice and sugar and there's cream everywhere.
I was expecting the same with this, but you put your fork through, there's a little bit of resistance and then a pop.
And it goes
resistance and a pop. It was almost like going through like bubble wrap all the way down with
That's
your
a
fork.
really good description of how it felt on the fork.
And it was just delicious. And I ate this. I'm like, I've never had anything like this before.
And he's like, it's going right. And we were like, I'm going to just.
Great.
It was great.
Absolutely great.
I had a coconut pie that had coconut like crushed at the bottom. That was really, really dense. It reminded me a lot of Thai food, a Thai dessert, because Thai dessert is quite dense, coconutty stuff. It was like that. And then it had it's not caramel con leche. What is it called? Leche. Please help us.
Delusions.
Whatever. It's covered in caramel.
Grandeur.
That's it. And it was so amazing. And we said to him, like, thank you so much for this amazing cake. We will be back again.
Yeah.
And sure enough, the very last day, before we left for Barcelona, before we left completely, we went there again and we lucked out, guys. Yeah. It was nighttime on like a Saturday or Sunday.
Right.
And we got there just the last table.
Yeah.
We didn't know it was going to be busy because turns out FC Barcelona was
playing.
And so all the screens around us.
And it was an important game because FC Barcelona lost the first game 2-0. So they had to like score many more goals than just 2 in order to like win in that bracket, I believe. And they turned out. They were just going nuts the whole game.
Wasn't it like
I think it was like 6-1 or something by the end. It was such a fun game. And I hate soccer. And I loved this game. It was a good game to watch.
Because you finally saw good football.
Yeah, I finally saw good football for once. But the reason why we're mentioning this place is because when we were sitting there and when we were like eating our cake and drooling and losing our minds and like this is such a great experience, we saw 2 people walk in and they were speaking in English and I heard one person say, like our friend said that we should meet them here, but this looks like a tourist trap. And then they went inside kind of like begrudgingly. And I thought, why why say that? Like, what are you doing right there? Like, why are you trying to limit your experience that way? What is wrong with this place? What is wrong with the idea of going to places where tourists eat? If they're like, we sometimes see this in like comments, especially in other people's videos, like, oh, you shouldn't eat there, that's a tourist trap, or don't go there, it's a tourist trap. Why are so many people so interested in using this phrase to downplay other people's experiences and memories? If somebody had a really special moment with a bombastic pie, not a cake, a pie, and you want to say...
It's a cake, guy. It was a dessert. It was not a pie, has fruit.
Stop
and
trying
crust.
to ruin my experience.
You had a amazing dessert cake.
But why... What's the urge that other people have in order to downplay other people's memories? Why is it a bad thing to go to a place where tourists eat? I don't necessarily understand this yet.
So one of the things that we were discussing about the concept of something being called a tourist trap is why we brought up Ichiran ramen at the beginning of the podcast. Because if someone says, you know, don't eat at Ichiran because there's so much better than Ichiran and like that's a tourist trap, it's like common. If I go to Ichiran and I have an amazing ramen, then I had a good ramen.
Yeah.
No one can take that experience from you. You had an amazing tasting ramen.
Just because there might be a better one somewhere else doesn't mean that anything that isn't the best is bad.
Right. So I think with tourist traps, what people are saying is, I am on vacation here, so I don't want to waste my one meal, like my lunch, in this place that might have mediocre food. But to play devil's advocate, how can you tell something's going to have mediocre food? Just because a place is in a perhaps good location, maybe it's popular, maybe it has like a fan following of people that show up, maybe it has social media presence. What makes you think that this place is somehow unworthy of your attention? I know there's other things as well.
And unworthy of, not just unworthy of your attention, but unworthy of other people's attention. Why shit on other people's experiences if they're having a good time?
And not to mention like shitting on someone's experiences from the outside, that person shit on their own experience. They walked up and they said, basically what they said out loud was this: I've never eaten here before, but it's gonna suck because
I'm telling myself,
I think,
I'm gonna have a bad time.
Right, you're prepping yourself in advance to say this is gonna be bad.
Right.
You know, I'm not saying that when I first sat there, I didn't have a little glimmer flicker across my mind. Like, we're not perfect. Like we sat down at this place, this cool location. I thought to myself, this might be like a chain. Like I might have sat down
Maybe.
I think it might like be a chain, who knows. But I thought to myself, it's a great location. I've got these cozy little tables. They were kind of like directors,
directors' chairs. We could sit and look at like people walking by. There was like an intersection and like lots of doggies walking by. And it was just such a nice experience.
So I didn't, and then turns out they make homemade cake. So surprise, they have amazing food, you know? So for us, that was kind of like, I tried to stamp down that feeling that I had in my head when I first said that to myself. But then I thought a little bit, I mulled it over a little bit. So what is it that people are trying to say when they tell someone something's a tourist trap? So let's talk about the negatives that we can come up with. I think the negatives would be that it might be overpriced. So for example, if you go to Korea and you go to a place that serves tteokbokki that charges you $5 for a plate of tteokbokki.
Instead of like $1 on the street.
That you shit on the street, you are getting price, like the prices are higher.
It's overpriced.
It is overpriced. But if it's overpriced and you enjoyed it, then I don't really see what the problem is. Like,
because there's lots, like we said in like our Kyoto Kicho video, right? Like that was a great experience. That was $600 a person. That's very overpriced, but it's still a great experience. Is that a tourist trap? I wouldn't say that.
No, you can't even get it. Like, it's hard to even get into some of these places, right? So I do think that the money shouldn't be the only deciding factor. Now, if it for you is that you don't have a lot of money and you're on a budget, well, then you just have to do more research into places that are more reasonably priced. But I don't think it's fair to say that if you're going to sit right in front, like, remember in Rome, there were some restaurants that were right in front of like that beautiful, huge, famous fountain. Right. Those restaurants there, let me tell you, are like way overpriced. Like the espresso there is super expensive because you're paying
for
to
the view
sit in front of a ancient, you know, you're just going, whoa. Like, so of course it's going to be overpriced. Aren't these people allowed to charge more money because the rent is probably out the nostril to be sitting in front of these places.
I mean, you're going to a restaurant. You know that by going to eat out, you are paying more money for food than if you cooked yourself. So everything's a tourist trap then. Yeah. So you shouldn't judge anybody. Is it just that like if somebody's saying that they're angry that like other people have more spending money for their vacation for that, and they're trying to be like, they're just spending their money dumb? I don't know yet.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
The reason why I think people say tourist trap, and I think this has more to do with FOMO, which is like a new thing that I'm learning about. So FOMO is
fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out. And I think that since the internet came out, there are wonderful things that it's done. It's brought together all of us around the world. We have this community, but it also shows you what other people are capable of experiencing. And it makes you feel like, well, I want to get that same picture in that same spot to put on my like social media account. We experienced this when we were in Thailand. We were at this like really nice hotel off season. So it was like really empty and rainy. But we weren't taking these pictures that people were taking in front of the pool. They were taking these pictures and then not even getting in the pool. Yeah. So they were like, vacation by the pool. Look at the pool. And then they picked up their stuff and they left. And I was like, okay, so did you even have fun in the pool? Like, so I think the problem is that
the staged photos that people make of pretending to have experience without like remember when we were in Thailand, we did Taiwan. We did the section of the video in which like we were eating with like a famous person there. Yeah. And she's like, oh, I love eating this. And she didn't eat a single thing.
I don't know if we guys told you that. We were eating at this
did we not mention that before?
Well, we're going to mention it now. We were having, I don't even know who it is anymore, but we were having bubble tea at that the original bubble tea place, and we had all those food dishes, and we met with this like celebrity who we didn't even know that we were like matched up with, and she's like, I love food is so good, and then she'd lift it up to her mouth, and then as soon as the camera turned off, she'd put it back down. She didn't eat anything, and I'm like, what the so I think what happens is that people say, you've got this much time on vacation, oh, you went to all these places and you had a lesser good time than I did, because I did this backpacking tour with an authentic person who showed me the best of the foods, and you stayed in town and did this. I think that there's that feeling of
kind of like, you know, there's this like snobbiness that people have. Like some people buy more expensive clothing than others because they want to, like, there's like conspicuous consumption that people have to try to show that, hey, like I'm better than you. And I think that that's starting to extend into travel.
I think so too.
The idea that like, oh, you're not having as good experience as you could because instead of going to this place on the main street, I wound up going down this back alley and I knocked on this door and I had to like punch this guy and I met this sacred grandma who's only spoken with 3 people and I had a true experience. What is the point of that? Like, I don't know, like, there's this ugly kind of snobbishness that's coming with like new breed of travelers that I just don't like. I remember when we were in Kobe a while ago, not the last time, but like a couple times before.
We were visiting our friends in the little tiny town. That's why we were there.
And we visited a restaurant that a friend of ours recommended for like Kobe beef.
A Japanese friend. Someone who's like lives in Japan, born in Japan.
And he lived in Kobe.
And he loved this place.
And he's like, go try it out. We went there. It wasn't the best. We've had lots of really good Kobe beef. It sucked. Okay, it was pretty bad.
I was annoyed because it was like,
But to the left of us were 2 people. I think they were from Argentina. And, you know, like they were like probably in their 50s or 60s or something like that. And they were having the time of their lives.
It was their first time to taste Kobe beef in their life.
And they were just... They were enjoying it so much, and afterwards they started talking with us. And they were like, wasn't this amazing? This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And I said, it is.
I said it was,
it was great.
It's so buttery, right? Like,
why? Because I didn't want to tell them that I had better meat somewhere else. I didn't want to take away that good experience that they have. They're gonna, if I would have said, actually it's bad, then that would have been such a hurtful thing to say to them. Why do people want to say these things that will intentionally hurt other people's memories?
Well, I think they're trying to make themselves feel better about some other issue in their life. But, you know, going back to this like Kobe thing that you brought up, which I think was a bombastic example. The meat that they had tasted good. It did taste good. It tasted good. It's simply that we've had much more experiences with Kobe beef that we've been able to say, oh, this is better. You know, and as you guys who have been able to view our lives online, like we've been sharing, you know, 10 11 years of our life online, you've actually seen us try different types of things, and we've been able to comparatively say, this is better than that. But we wouldn't have known. I still would have kept my favorite memory as my top food experience. just because they had Kobe beef, which to us wasn't super great, to them, if it's the best Kobe they've had, then that's real. Yeah. That is a fact. It is the best Kobe they've had.
And if something is a tourist trap, it's not like it's different food than what other people eat. Like for the paella that we had in Barcelona, which I think I'm pronouncing wrong. Somebody said I should be paella.
Really?
Instead of paella? I'm not sure. I read a comment that told me that I'm pronouncing wrong.
We've been told we've been pronouncing things wrong our entire lives. Okay, we don't say tteokbokki, right? We don't say everything. Like,
every 100th comment is something like, you're pronouncing
it
wrong.
Because I'm mad. We should be saying things like...
You should be stagging mad. Point is, it's not like paella is a food that was invented just for tourists.
Yeah.
It's part of Spain. It's part of Valencia. And if it's been adapted to like this area, then it's still real food. It's not fake food. It's not hologram food from Star Trek.
Fake food.
It's a real introduction that can pique your curiosity. And if you like it, then you can get into more. Those two people that had Kobe beef at the not great place, they might be like, well, I want to try Kobe beef somewhere else now. Yeah. And they could start adding on to their experiences. There's nothing wrong with having an introductory class. You don't have to go to a country for your first time and be an expert.
Yeah.
And I really dislike when other people online have that air of pretentiousness and tell people how they're eating sushi wrong, because let me tell you, all those rules that say you're eating sushi wrong if you use chopsticks or your hands or this and that, none of y'all know shit about sushi if you're saying that, all right? Yeah. Because it's wrong.
It is wrong because we live in Japan where we watch Japanese people with their Japanese kids open their little wasabi pack and dump it into a container and they pour their wasabi on it and they use their chopsticks and they use their hands and they don't flip it upside down and put it into their mouth with their tongue open doing this.
Don't be one of those people that negate other people's experiences. Yeah. Like, let everyone travel the way that they want. Let them enrich their lives as much as they can, and don't be a person that tears that down.
Yeah. Speaking of the whole idea about, what are other negative, positive things that we hear about tourism and that kind of stuff, right? I think another thing that might come up for people's concern about tourist traps, not just money, but I think they might also be talking about taste in food being authentic.
Okay.
Right? So you hear people say things like, in Barcelona, we were told not to have the sangria because locals don't drink sangria. It's only invented for the tourists. Okay, so I didn't have sangria there only because I wanted to try vermouth.
Because we really like the vermouth.
Yeah, because vermouth is something I had never tried before, especially out of a cask. Yeah. So I was like, I can't have this in Japan. It's impossible. So I'm going to but I can make sangria on my own. Right. I can buy Spanish wine and I can do this at home, right? It was really great to be able to try that vermouth. Yeah. But when I saw people having pictures of sangria, like you'd walk past tables of we heard people speaking Korean or Japanese, and they were sharing these pictures of sangria outside on these beautiful patios. I thought, what a great memory. Yeah. What a great experience to be having sangria outdoors and this beautiful mild weather.
Good for you for going
for enjoying that.
Because we have friends that work in Korea, and when they had to bring their co-workers to Spain to work on a project, those Korean co-workers just brought Shin ramen with them, and they stayed in the hotel and they're like, I only want to eat ramen because I don't want to try other food. That's when hey, you should try something else. Like if you're in a country,
tourist trap. That's like you not being able to get out of your own mind. That's you showing up and being like, I'm not going to try anything and I'm just going to eat my own country's food. Right. That to me is more the trap.
That is the trapping of the tourist that is too afraid to go out and experience new things.
Yeah. So if you go to a country, because we're running a
we're passionate about this.
If the camera's off, then I'm sorry guys. But the podcast is going. What I will say is that if you go somewhere and you experience something that someone has told you is a tourist trap, or you know that maybe it's not the most authentic experience, then let yourself have a secondary experience. If it's that important to you. Like if you think if you really want to have sangria but you're worried about what people will think about you, try the sangria, enjoy the sangria, and then go enjoy something different. Right. Try some vermouth, try some local red wine, and then you can give yourself a scale to say, you know what, I have the confidence to tell my friends back home that I really enjoyed the sangria in Spain.
And I'm going to say something, this isn't going to be very humble, but I'm going to say it anyways. If you are a little bit scared about going out and having tourist traps, hey, Simon and Martina have been traveling extensively for 11 years. We've traveled a lot more than most people will travel in their entire lives, without a doubt. And I'm telling you, go out and drink the sangria if you want. Go out and try all the tourist trappings. Enjoy it. Make the good experiences. Don't let anybody else with a lower experience tell you that yours isn't right. You go and make all the memories that you can, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Well, I don't think I can add to that very much.
There you go.
There you go.
Suck it, haters.
Banana, put it in your mouth. It's I'm not singing some weird porny thing. It's from those people.
Good copy.
No, yogurt. Papaya. The people who did What Does the Fox Say?
What are they?
They have a really terrible name that I can't remember because it's like, are they from Norway?
You know what I was thinking? I was thinking the Obama.
Norge TV.
Obama.
Norge TV.
Yeah, Norge TV. I think they're
There's
called.
a really funny song called "I Met This Girl Named Yogurt," but not exactly yogurt, but it sounds a bit like yogurt.
And you know what? If you want to go to have yogurt anywhere, I forget what country they're from.
Norway.
If you want to go to Norway and have yogurt in Norway.
Good story, bro.
Good story.
Guys, let us know in the comment section.
So professional.
We never claimed to be.
Yeah.
We never claimed to be.
We're experienced, but we're not professional.
Yeah, that's right. Let us know in the comment section, guys, please, your experiences with what you might think a tourist trap would be wrong. Like, why are tourist traps wrong and bad? And we don't mean the obvious ones, like they try to take your money and kill you. Okay, I don't want to talk about those. I mean, like, what is the worst thing?
Are tourist traps run by slave babies?
Yeah,
I don't know. What's the big deal with them? Please let us know. And otherwise, please stop telling people to not have good experiences.
Yeah, guys, take care, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.